I've got a Civil War story I want to share. I want to give credit to Mike Coday, formerly of Oklahoma, now of the great state of Texas, living in the Dallas area. Mike sent me this story, and I want to share it with you. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's real, but it's good, and I wanted to share it with you today. During the Civil War, after the first Battle of Bull Run, the second battle that took place between the North and the South, bad time in our nation's history, as the North was trying to put down the rebellious South, and the South was trying to impeach the standing government that was trying to take away their state authority, make them powerless, seeing them as an aggressor. So you have this Civil War taking place, and both sides are hurting. And this one particular time, there in Manassas, Virginia, there's two railways kind of crossed in that area, and it was a very important area, especially concerning the railroads, and because it connected Richmond, Virginia, which was the headquarters for the South, to Washington, D.C. And so it was a very important place for battle right there. And as these two capitals were fighting for control, they were assaulting one another. There was one farmer in the middle of all this, as you got these two titanic powers that are going to collide. You've got one farmer that's stuck in the middle. And this one farmer, he didn't want to have to choose a side. He didn't want to have to be for anybody. He wanted to be neutral and remain neutral. And it just so happened that as the forces were, the Union and the Confederacy were coming together in this one area at Manassas, this farmer was stuck right there in the middle. And he was trying to figure out, how do I remain neutral? And so he had this bright idea of having on a Union coat and Confederate pants, or vice versa. He was half blue, half gray. And the South arrived first, and he did have on the blue pants. And when the South arrived and saw him in blue pants, they began shooting at him. And the story goes that to keep him from shooting at him, he had to take his pants off and wave them in the air, and take off his hat and wave at him to let him know that he's not an enemy. Well, about that time that the South quit shooting, well, here comes the North. And as the North comes from the other side, they see this man with a gray coat. Why, he must be a Confederate, and they begin shooting at him. And it says a man stripped off his coat and ran almost naked all the way up to his barn, and he hid in his barn until the fight was over. And when that particular battle, and that was probably the second Battle of Bull Run, when that one was done, the gentleman came out of his barn and found what was left of his barn. Found almost all of his farm was destroyed. Everything was just a waste. And he thought, oh, this won't do. And he was mad at the North. He was mad at the South. So he decided he was going to sell everything, move off, and he wanted to go someplace that it would be without war. He decided he was going to move to the neutral state of Maryland, to a town called Sharpsburg. Sharpsburg happened to be also known as Antietam, which happened to be probably one of the most bloody battlefields of the Civil War that would happen next. And you're left with this story of a man who left war to move to a place of peace, only for there to be war coming. Neutrality is a thing that would be fun to have, but we live in a world where we have to choose. We have to choose in our politics. We've got a big election time coming up. We're going to be voting for a new president, maybe new senators and things. And so we've got some big political times coming up, and primaries. And you can't just be neutral. You may not vote for a party, but you will vote for somebody, and you'll vote for that person. God help us if we just vote on them out of cosmetic issues, but we vote on them because of their integrity, because of their morals, because of their politics, their stance on things. You're going to have to choose. As a Christian, you have to choose between living for God or not living for God at every moment. Do I stand on God's side, or do I stand on the enemy's side, which is not a man, it's Satan? And so neutrality is something that a lot of people want to have, but it doesn't exist. You have to choose. And the Bible tells something about this. When the children of Israel were going into their new promised land, they'd gotten in there. Joshua had led them. Where Moses had died, Joshua led them into the promised land. And towards the end of Joshua's life, he gave them this challenge, because apparently not everybody wanted to live for the God who got them out of bondage, out of Egypt, and led them into the promised land. In Joshua chapter 24, verses 14 and 15, he says it, he puts it to the children of Israel like this. He says, "Now therefore fear the Lord, serve Him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods which your fathers served on the other side of the river and in Egypt. Serve the Lord. And if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you dwell now. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Here Joshua is laying out before the people of God that you're going to have to choose. You're going to have to choose specifically to live for God and to live for Him with your whole heart every day. Because of Christ's life, and this is what I want you to understand, as we live the Christ life is not something we just live on a Sunday when we show up to church and say, "Hey, we're at church. I'm going to live for God right now." But then, Sunday morning, but then Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, you're going to live like the world. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're going to live however you want. But on Sundays, you give it to God. That's not how it works. You have to choose a side. You have to choose to say, "Lord, I'm going to be your person. I'm going to be your man, your woman, your servant. I'm going to live for you all the days of my life." Because God doesn't see neutral. As a matter of fact, Jesus in His teachings to Israel told the Jewish people there, that reflects back to us. He says, "Those who are not with me are against me. Those who do not gather in with me are literally scattering people abroad." You're scattering what God's trying to accomplish. And so there is no neutrality. Either you are for God or you're not for God. And unfortunately, there are a lot of those who think they are for God. But because their life, their daily life, their choices, their morals do not line up with the Word of God, they won't make it. So let me encourage you with this. As you go about your week this week, let God look through your life and show you where, yes, you are doing right. You are being faithful and consistent. But let God show you where you're trying to be like this farmer, stuck between two sides, and you don't want to make anybody mad. You just want to live for yourself. I'll tell you, you got God on one side and the devil on the other. And everyone will choose. And by an act of indecision, you make a choice, but it's not for God. So choose the Lord. Live for Him every day with all that you have, so that one day you'll hear Him say, "Good job. Well done. Come on home." God bless you. I love you. I pray that you have a great, great day.